Fam, a spokesperson for the Ekurhuleni police testified at the Madlanga Commission, and it was eye-opening. Now, this episode, because of the nature of the revelations and how shocking they are, is not for sensitive viewers. Kelebogile Thepa, who was this spokesperson, was someone who blew the whistle on Katmatlala's Blue Light Brigade. And you remember these blue lights were given by the Ekurhuleni police to these vehicles owned by Katmatlala. And because she blew the light, she was attacked not once but twice. Don't take it from me. Have a look at this clip and we'll get into it after revealing what she said.
I'm getting ready to go to the 10 o'clock, 2200 p.m. shift and get ready. Then a friend came over to see me after she knocked off work. On my way out, I'm like, no, I need to pump the tires. We'll just do that exercise. I stop outside her house. While stopping there, two gentlemen then approaches the vehicle at gunpoint again, get us in the vehicle, direct me to drive, make me drive around Tembisa, and eventually get us to this secluded place. And I think what pains me the most, it is that which is always having to make reference to work. This time, the modus operandi was that, I'm a problem at work, and they had made the threat of saying they want to burn me in the car.
So shocking. This is what happened to her simply because she thought it was wrong for these illegal blue lights to be given over to a private VIP company. But let's take a further listen into how the story unfolded, because it tells us some of the harrowing details that she went through.
This gentleman makes a call to somebody and they start speaking in Zulu. Describe me, the height, the vehicle that I operate, of which it does belong to council. It was a white Ford Ranger. Ask this person on the other end of the line and they confirm that, yeah, KI simtolile simbambile. I'm being made to park under an electricity tower. And, it's just one thing after another. These instances, I remember I had requested to go pee because I needed to get rid of the phone which I had in my possession. And as I moved away to go pee, I see that these people are watching me like a hawk, and I wasn't even able to throw it out or anything of that sort. Coming back to the car, as I'm being chaperoned in, I then throw it under the seat, the vehicle, that at least it's no longer in possession. If found, I don't know. Then they ask me for dockets. I'm asking, what dockets? Honestly, I thought they had confused me with somebody in the South African Police Services. I tell them I don't work with dockets. No, it's Funama docket. They open the cubby hole. They check behind the seat pockets at the back, and hey, commissioners.
Today we're just thinking like, this EMPD story is going on for so long. What new things could possibly emerge? And then you get this terrifying testimony of these allegations of, once you criticize a decision to give private people blue lights, you get intimidated like this, driven around, being told you could be killed in the most brutal way. And this is the story of Kelebogile Thepa. Her strength in delivering this testimony was quite something. What she was recounting there was actually her second encounter with this kind of attack. She was actually attacked for the first time in a car, and people pointed a firearm at her, drove around with her, and it was just really shocking to listen to, the kind of intimidation that people go through. In life we think of intimidation as someone saying something nasty to you, but these are actually physical threats of violence just based on things that happened at work. And the scary thing is that the people who drove her around were literally making reference to her work. They were not trying to hide that she was being intimidated because of the way that she was outing and supportive of criticizing this blue lights situation. And she was asked to help with the investigation at IPID. She did say that she was worried for her safety in doing so, but it did emerge that she eventually did help with that IPID investigation. And these were the consequences. So a really shocking start to the day. And to make matters more worrying, remember she was the spokesperson, and the journalist Jeff Wicks, who was on the trail of these blue lights, had sent questions to her, and she was in the process of compiling a comprehensive response which showed that the blue lights were unlawful. Ultimately, instead of her being able to do this, it was taken out of her hands and moved into the hands of the city manager. So effectively the city manager at the time, Dr. Imogen Mashazi, said EMPD mustn't speak about this. The spokesperson mustn't speak about this. We'll take it on, and we'll be the only point of reference for media statements on these blue lights. So it was taken out of her hands so that she couldn't make these statements. But then further, her unit, the media unit, was disbanded. Hey, it seems like disbandment is the way to go when people are doing inconvenient and uncomfortable things for those who are pursuing unlawful ends. Instead of account to the law, just disband the unit that's investigating you. So it was really tough to listen to Lieutenant Colonel Thepa's testimony today, and it was jaw-dropping, it was eye-watering, and it was terrifying to hear about the systematic intimidation that's confronted these EMPD officials. But that wasn't all that we heard today, because if anything, the next witness, Witness D, whose identity was concealed, was probably even more shocking. Witness D seems to be an employee or former employee of a security company. And it seems that the Ekurhuleni police just bring in private security to do these operations with them. And they collaborate with these rogue private security officers in all manner of operations. And Witness D is kind of a whistleblower from within the private security industry who was part of some of these operations and says he saw things which will bring you to tears. So in 2022, Witness D says that he was called onto the scene where he was taken to a house of someone who was suspected of having committed theft from a warehouse. Now, exactly why private security were conducting some kind of interrogation of this person along with the police remains unknown, but he, EMPD members, and other private security and private citizens were there to try and extract the truth from this person who was a suspect in this warehouse robbery. And Witness D proceeds to tell a story of how this suspect is tortured to try and get the truth out of them and ultimately murdered, and their body dumped in a dam. Let's listen to the details of the story of how Witness D tells us what he saw in that house that day.
From Brockman Saps and the other Pretorians then pushed the man into the second bedroom and closed the door behind them. Everyone else, including myself, searched the rest of the house. In the main bedroom, the EMPD officers, unknown to me, found case dockets where the suspect is identified as a suspect in the particular crime or is otherwise mentioned. Some SAPS forensic bags, as well as a number of live ammunition rounds, was found. The other rooms contained various tools or garden tools or welding equipment. I then went into the bedroom where the suspect had been taken to by the Brockpan SAPS members with the Andre Pretorius. I noticed the Andre Pretorius, the suspect, with a plastic bag with the two SAPS Brockpan members assisting him from the right-hand side of the double bed. Tubing is where a plastic bag gets placed over a person's head, and that person gets suffocated to the point that he talks or cannot breathe, no longer breathe, and then obviously that we will, or they would obviously then ask him to talk to us, obviously to avoid this from taking place again. I entered the room and sat next to the suspect on the left-hand side of the bed. When Deandre stopped, I asked the suspect to tell me where the stolen stock was being kept. The suspect replied that he will show us. I picked up a wooden table leg that was broken from inside the room, held his legs down with it as to not touch him with my hands as he was wet. Deandre then continued tubing in with the one unknown Brakpan SAPS member, helping to hold him down, while the other was searching the drawers, etc. I got up and left the room. The other people were still searching the room. It was quite clear, or the house, my apologies, Commissioners. It was quite clear at this stage that the stock from Uwera's robbery was not in the house. As I entered the passage towards the kitchen, I saw one EMPD officer taking a bucket of water to the room where the suspect was being kept. In the kitchen, I found Kershaw Lee's stalls searching the cupboards. I walked out of the house and stood on the steps. A short while later, I walked back into the kitchen and found Kershaw Lee on her phone. She ended the call and shouted for everyone to move outside into the yard and went towards the second bedroom. As I moved towards the door, I noticed two unknown Brakpan SAPS members leaving the house in haste. One of them was carrying a small black sports bag. I exited the house. I was joined outside in the garden next to the truck by Kobus and the others. Shortly after this, Deandre and Kershaw Lee joined us. I asked whether a suspect talked, and Deandre responded that he will never ever talk again.
Yeah, you can even see like the commissioners are just sitting there like taking it in, listening to this shocking tale of torture and murder. And this really kind of shifts gears on this whole inquiry, because it's one thing, organized crime, influencing ministers for tenders, but it's another thing when murders start getting covered up and bodies start getting dumped in dams. And if you listen to more of Witness D's testimony and go and check out the SMWX live stream of that, he tells the story of how this person who was suspected of a crime is murdered during this torture process. And according to Witness D, Julius Mkhwanazi, the Deputy Commissioner of EMPD, who's now suspended, who has been accused by various witnesses throughout the week of wrongdoing, arrived on the scene to clean up the scene and instructed Witness D to dispose of the body in a dam. Witness D says he was so scared, he thought he might be next, so he complied with the instruction. But later blew the whistle, told IPID, the body that deals with police wrongdoing, everything that happened from 2022, and absolutely nothing has happened. So we're now talking about serious stuff here. We're talking about murder, the cover-ups of murder, torture, and absolutely rogue behavior from the criminal justice system in effectively an extrajudicial execution. Really, quite frankly, whether this person had committed wrongdoing or not is besides the point. You can't just send hit squads to deal with suspects through torture. So that's not just unlawful. That's like a war crime kind of vibe now. So, today took a turn. It was just macabre stuff. So this witness also spoke about hijackings where people would impersonate police get blue lights and then proceed to hijack people, or they would steal stock and then sell it back to the person who it had been stolen from, saying, oh, the police have found it, but can then extorting them to get the stock back. So yeah, clearly there are some very serious allegations that need to be answered from people within not just the Ekurhuleni police at this point, but the highest reaches of the Ekurhuleni government, even the Gauteng government, national government. What did they know about this? What were mayors doing? What were these different mayors doing? We had ANC mayors, we had DA mayors, we had an AIC mayor, now we have another ANC mayor. What did they know? What did all of the MMCs for safety know? What did the city managers know? We need to get to the bottom of this. This is because crime is such a big problem. Violent crime is such a big problem in Gauteng, in Joburg, in Ekurhuleni, in Pretoria. But what happens when the people who are supposed to protect us from this crime are participants in the wrongdoing themselves? Then you have a defenseless population. And that is a situation which is completely untenable. One of the most shocking things we have heard in South Africa, actually, in these last 30 years. And it just keeps coming out. When law enforcement turns against its own people. So, I mean, that was really a summary of what happened today. Yesterday, Oratile Nkabinde gave a great analysis of what happened in Parliament. But Nkabinde, send packing. Nkabinde, send packing. Do you have your gadgets with you? That's my question to you, viewer. Do you have your... I've got gadgets. Do you have gadgets? Because if you don't have gadgets, then who knows what could happen. You won't remember dates. If you don't have your gadget, you might not remember your name. So yeah, Nkabinde's testimony, I mean, in some ways I feel like it was a lost opportunity because now he can go back and doctor his statement and, get coached as to how to make it better. But usually when a witness comes with a defective statement, you tear that witness apart and you show the defects in their statement. And that can also serve a public purpose to say that Senzo Mkunu's chief of staff would not be credible. He's come to the commission or the committee to tell half-truths and untruths. But the committee has given him a second chance, told him to go back and redo his statement and correct it. So he didn't get marked and he can redo his homework. So it's a reprieve. It's a reprieve for him. But yeah, I would have wanted him, and also this committee doesn't have unlimited time. Now we've lost another 2 days. So one would like to see him coming back very soon because I want to know about this IDAC thing. He's talked about some boys' trip with Mkhwanazi. It's just all this. I mean, does he know Brown Mokgotsi? Minister Mkhunu had a meeting with Brown Mokgotsi at the official residence. I can't quite recall as I'm sitting here right now whether Mkhunu divulged this meeting in his testimony. But either way, the Mkhunu version has not done well in this committee so far. And really, as we take a step back, as we come to the end of another week, here's the conclusion, which I believe is becoming ineluctable at this point. General Mkhwanazi's allegations have not been dislodged. General Mkhwanazi, when you boil it all down, says that he had evidence that a criminal syndicate was influencing the government and law enforcement in particular at the highest levels. And nothing that has been said so far in 2 parallel commissions, in 2 different venues, has dislodged that. If anything, we have heard chilling evidence to corroborate and support General Mkhwanazi's suggestion that a criminal syndicate is influencing law enforcement. Now, maybe around the margins, we can quibble about whether everything Mkhwanazi said was correct. We know not everything was correct because he's even apologized and withdrawn some things. But that's all incidental, quite frankly, to the fundamental thing which is happening, which is that we are seeing that this criminal syndicate has maybe even a further reach into our government than we thought before, into local police departments, maybe provincial structures, certainly national structures at this point. And it's truly and profoundly worrying. And I would urge you not to become numb to it and not to feel like you're losing track of it and you just want to ignore it. Let's keep following this because it helps us to become educated citizens and to know where we can go from here. And that's the purpose of this channel, to give you a short summary of what's happening so that you can continue to follow along. And as the weekend emerges, why not binge watch some SMWX this weekend? Go back to the analysis from this week. If you just watch all the analysis from this week, you'll pretty much know everything that has happened in a very complex week. Check out our interviews as well, where we speak to different people about their thoughts. And fam, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We will be back next week for everything that is about to come up at the committee and the commission and in South African politics. Comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and let's continue building this tidal wave that is the SMWX community. See you on the next one, fam. Aye.